If you are trying to get into your dream program at your dream school at the UBC, University of British Columbia, and your grades are not the strongest, you have hope. Your personal profile is worth 50% of your application as of 2022. So, you want to make your personal profile as neat as possible, but you are suddenly reading all of these questions and have no idea how to answer them. So, I have applied to UBC in 2022, and um, I ended up getting offers from both my first and second choice, but only in 1 week ahead, 1 week before the acceptance deadline. So it was kind of weird. I got into my second choice first and then my first choice. And I'm pretty sure it's my personal profile because it's because I ended up getting into both my top and second choice. Um, Even though I didn't go to UBC, and my personal profile was kind of odd, I have learned a lot of things ever since then as I review what I've written, and I have formed some tips for you not to replicate my mistakes. Alright, thanks for tuning in. So, the first tip I'm going to give you is whatever you say, it gotta relate to your intended area of study. So even if you are talking about an activity like soccer and it does not relate to science at all, you can talk about how soccer gave you skills to help you succeed in science. So maybe that's perseverance in that sense. So do not do what I did. I talked about wrapping hot dogs and didn't relate to commerce or science, which were the two faculties I applied for. All right. The second mistake is your personal profile, it is not the longer the better. That's what I thought before, the longer the better. And what ends up happening is it completely loses readers because it's so long. They read so many applications, they don't read every word of your application. So if your application requires a lot of focus to get to the meat, then you should change it up. Next, in your application, in your personal profile, you must have specific anecdotes relating to your intended area of study. So if you're applying for commerce, you gotta make up some stories like case studies almost and relate it to your area of study. If you just talk about generic things, oh, this is my hobby, I like this, I like that. For example, how would your family, friends, and or members of your community describe you? If possible, please include something about yourself that you're most proud of. So, you see, the second part is like implicitly asking you for an anecdote, a case study. So, a case study, you can just pick one and then dive into it rather than just listing a whole bunch because that gives a humanized factor to your response. Next, make breaks in your paragraphs. I thought that one question equals one paragraph. So I just answered in one paragraph and it became a huge chunk of words that I'm sure my readers didn't care to read. So you want to please make breaks in your paragraphs. And as you make breaks, you can use this to your advantage to put key ideas at the start or the end of a paragraph, but not in the middle where it gets crowded out and forgotten. So my mistake in my application is here's what I said. First time I hosted a spelling bee event on stage with over 300 students with my team of 3 did not go as I had assumed. My team was not ready for the undertakings and caused a degree of confusion. I frantically tried to support the atmosphere of the event while resolving continual buffers. Although this was only a half-hour experience, you see the setting is way too long. And I didn't make breaks in my paragraphs, so when I got to the meat, people already forgot. They just think, oh, this is a whole bunch of setting and a whole bunch of generic words. It's really boring. So please, these two. And speaking of that, you want to consider your readers. If you did what I did, you added too much setting, you added too many sentences, you added too many metaphors, they're going to lose it. They're not going to pay attention. So you want to think from their perspective, is this engaging? And one way you can make it engaging is making breaks in paragraphs. Now, the next tip is they keep talking about community involvement. That is a central theme. However, when you talk about community involvement or teamwork, like what I've told you from what I've read, don't just focus on the setting so much. They are reading because they want to learn about you, not about the setting. So this is actually a pretty big tip that even the Chevening Scholarship for United Kingdom emphasizes. This is one very common error. So yeah, keep that in mind. Next. This is a very strange tip, but I find it is quite important to talk about. Sometimes we might just be really focused on giving a direct answer, and that just loses the flair of our writing. I'm not saying your writing has to be English literature. That will actually throw off your readers as well, because most readers don't read at that high of a level. So you want to focus on how your writing gives off the effect, the impact on their understanding, maybe through pathos, logos, etc., and not just making your writing generic because for the sake of answering the question directly. This is something that you need to evaluate based on what you have written. So for my example, my error was I kept focusing on, okay, after I finished writing this, did I respond to a problem? Was there an unfamiliar situation? What did I do? Did I say the outcome? Did I say what I learned? So I ended up saying, from this experience, I learned how to be a better leader through practice. It includes hearing, encouraging, and involving each member in a meaningful role and ceaselessly take initiative and challenges to accomplish goals. First, sentence too long. Second, too many adverbs. Lost them. Yeah. So you want to think about, are you answering the question, or are you answering the question to focus on answering the question? Or are you answering the question to focus on communicating what makes you unique to them? So don't add it. Don't make it too long, because it's going to lose them. Next, this is a very short but essential tip. Prepare early. So that might look like in your high school, you get yourself involved in everything that there possibly is, or make yourself acquainted to new things like volunteering, just stories if possible. Because I know in my high school year, grade 11 and half of grade 10, it was just quarantine, so you bet I got some strange stories about wrapping hot dogs and weird things. Okay, lastly, does your personal profile focus on your first or your second choice? This is a very strange topic, and I want to make this a tip for you, because if you really want to get into UBC, you want to get into, let's say, science, but sadly you don't have enough anecdotes, where is it? You don't have enough anecdotes for science, but you have a whole bunch for arts, but you really want to get into UBC science. Your grades are not that strong. It's okay. And so you just really want to get into science. So they're going to evaluate your first choice first. So you want to make sure your personal profile highlights how your anecdotes relate to your first choice, and then they can evaluate you. But I'm going to tell you my error. My first choice is commerce. My second choice was science. I had stories for neither. And what I wish I had done is if I were trying to get in, which I did, but the point is, if you get in, you have to choose your major and your minor, or double major. So you have to major in the choice that you got admitted into. So that means I can major in science, but I can also major in commerce at the same time. So you just think about that. So if you want to get into science, but you're stronger in arts in your personal profile, you can just apply for arts as your first choice, and then make your personal profile sound strong in arts. And then when you get in, that it's true you got to major in arts, but you can also major in a science at the same time. So you just think about that. It's a pretty it's a way to hack the system if you really want to get into UBC. And so that's all the tip I've got for you.